I'd like to welcome all of you to another edition of Our City. And a few things around the city of Elizabeth. Naturally, still vaccines are available. We have plenty of them between us and the County of Union. You can go to ucnjvaccine.org, the City of Elizabeth website, at elizabethnj.org, or any of our social media sites for information and times. We should still continue to get vaccinated, follow social distance rules, and keep your face mask or covering if you are with a large amount of people and you're not sure of the vaccination status. Personal responsibility is extremely important. So if you need more information concerning this or any other events going on in the City of Elizabeth, please call our Public Information Office at 908-820-4124. Now this week's show, I'm pleased to be joined by Ms. Ericka Hicks, who is at Thomas Jefferson Arts Academy. She's been a teacher there. She'll tell you for how long, but I've known Ms. Hicks for many years, and she's done a great job with the students of our city. And I'm also pleased to be joined by Yoselyn Escamilla, who is a 9th grade student and wrote an absolutely terrific poem that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So, Ericka, Yoselyn, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having us.
So who wants to start? Ericka, you want to start and tell us a little about yourself and how long you've been there? You're an Elizabeth girl too, right, Ericka? You grew up here.
I sure am. You know what's so funny? I was just telling Yoselyn, I said, I've known the mayor since I was a kid.
I know, that's why I don't want to say anything, but I think you might have been in my office for pizza way back when.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've seen you at events when we were growing up, and I mean, it's been years. So this is an honor. It's great to still have you and to be talking with you. And I've been officially here at Jeff teaching. I'll be going into my 8th year. So it's been 7 years since I've been teaching here at Jeff.
Oh, I've known you so long, Ericka. I thought it was a lot longer than that.
I know. Well, I was also, a student of Miss Walsh, who held the position prior to me. So it does feel like I graduated from here. It feels like I've been here forever, but officially as a teacher, it's been going on 8 years.
So Yoselyn, you're a 9th grader, and tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you an Elizabeth girl as well, born and bred here?
Yeah, I was actually born here in Elizabeth.
So, and you've been going to school. Where'd you go to school here? Where'd you go to grade school?
For grade school, I went to Christopher Columbus School 15.
And that's the one on in the Peterstown section, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, you grew up in that neighborhood, Yoselyn?
Actually, for the, I say first 6 years, I've actually been living here, like on the same street for Jefferson. I actually lived a block away from here. So it's kind of crazy that now I'm a student here.
So you have a pretty easy commute, huh, Yoselyn?
Right.
And there are no excuses for you ever to be late, right?
Nope.
No. So the National Poetry Month, Ericka, tell us, what is the purpose of National Poetry Month from a teacher's perspective?
We had to do some research about this because I do teach drama and they naturally go hand in hand. But I had not known about the reasons why it was established. So we did learn a little bit about it. I did read and research that it was inspired by Black History Month. I think the success of using a month to acknowledge an idea was so successful that it influenced the talk about making a month of awareness for poetry. And we also learned that publishers use the month to release new works and to publicize new works, which I think is a great thing because so often we forget about that style of writing, and to make it an awareness. I know for us here at Jeff, it's definitely kept it on our radar. So we do periodically, we join competitions if they're out, and maybe we talk about some plays that reference poetry or have a poetic approach to it. So just the awareness has, in my opinion, been great across the board for those who otherwise may not really take the time.
So you think it was inspired by Black History Month and things of celebrations of the month? That's an interesting connection.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that there were probably other reasons, but I found that one in particular to be interesting, that the success of that month kind of inspired the idea of making it, a National Poetry Month.
So the celebration of poetry is important to young people. I have to be honest, I did not grow up with poetry in mind in any of my areas. So I'm going to get to Yoselyn in a minute. And you did drama. You teach a lot of the musicals and the drama stuff, right? So
yeah,
it's a little bit of a switch for you to poetry, right? How do you work with young people who are poetically inclined?
It's still a learning process because I do teach drama, which again, there's a natural connection there, but it is not exactly poetry. However, this student in particular, Yoselyn, is a freshman. This is her first time taking a drama class. She originally wanted to come here for creative writing. Am I right about that? Creative writing, yeah. But we are not offering that class. So she defaulted to me, which I'm happy she did. Her writing skills became very clear. We did a playwriting project, and her play was just phenomenal. We read it in class. I couldn't even believe that a freshman wrote the play. And when this opportunity came up, I said, I need you to write me a poem. And it was second nature. She did it. It was brilliant. So I guess for me, I just identify those students who show a connection to writing in general. And I go, if you're a writer, you probably can write a lot of many different genres. So this was kind of for both of us. I learned a lot about her because I just was testing her to see, can you write a poem? And she did. I was like, what? She wrote like 5. I had to sit and pick which one to choose.
So Yoselyn, what was your inspiration for this poem?
So for this poem, I was actually inspired by like Pride Month, since like the LGBT community is something that's very prominent in my life. And like the Pride March is to, obviously celebrate like pride and like the LGBT community, but it's also kind of to make a protest, a form of protest, but using celebration for them to be like more legally protected. So I was kind of using that to keep in mind, and like I wrote it about them like marching down the streets and blasting music.
So how long did it take you, Yoselyn?
It actually took me a very short amount of time. Like I just had the idea, and it took me at least like under an hour just to write it.
So let me begin. Do you hear those footsteps? Do you see those colorful flags? They march down the streets with one goal in mind: equality for their community. They're all for a strong unity, being there for each other, since they all walk the same thorny path. Not hurt one of them, and you will see their wrath. So now, in my mind, I'm reading this and I see an individual, but I also see a group message. The individual message and the group message at the end. So was that a thoughtful process for you, Yoselyn, to have an individual and then a group at the end of that first stanza?
It actually wasn't. I just like wrote it and wasn't really thinking about it.
So I think people like me who couldn't put 2 of those sentences together, to be honest with you, but then again could read and then form their own interpretation. Do you think other people, when you write this, do you hope they interpret it in a way that is meaningful for them?
Yeah, I feel like with poetry or stories, there's never really one direct meaning. There could be a general theme for it, but I feel like every individual can see it in their own way that applies to them.
Yeah, because then you go on with, as they march down the busy street, they are met with the eyes of bystanders. Some give them scornful looks. Others watch them as if they were reading their favorite book. So that's like two different scenarios, right? You have one group of people who are very enjoyed by seeing them, and others who are angry for seeing them because of the scornful looks. But that wasn't a conscious thought process, was it?
I feel like that specific part it was because I wanted to show how the same thing can be seen in two different ways. It can be seen negatively and positively.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, how does your writing? Do you have brainstorming sessions when you do this, or you said it took you less than an hour? Like I said, if I had to put this together, it'd take me a month of Sundays.
I feel like I don't often have like just brainstorming sessions. I usually just if I have the idea, I'll just write it, and that's kind of how this poem turned out.
So, Jocelyn, does anybody review it, or do you edit it and make it work for the way you want it to read?
I do it all myself. I don't really have anyone else read it. I just read it, and if it seems okay to me, how people see it, interpret it is it's up on their own. But that's how I just saw it. That'd be okay.
So the next stanza is they blast music to keep up their spirits as they continue to march in hopes of good results. All they want is to be treated equally. They want those laws so they can be in peace legally. This is their strive for success. They no longer want to be seen as nobodies. They want to be seen as somebody. They want to be seen as more than their sexuality. Regardless of the pride community, I think we all strive for that. We all strive to be seen as individuals. So that thought process is something that could play in a lot of different areas. What do you think?
Yeah, it can play in many things. Whether I feel like most people are generalized into a community, like whether they're like in high school to like those stereotypes, like they're the nerds, the jocks. But I feel like deep down, everyone just wants to stand out on their own. They don't want to just be seen as a nerd or as a jock or as like a theater kid. They want to be seen as themselves, as a person.
Is that what makes poetry so special for you?
Yeah, it's about how you can spread a message, but when it reaches people, how they can interpret in their own way and like make their own messages. And it can be seen as something healing and comforting for them.
So Miss Hicks indicated that you did not get the creative writing course that you wanted. Now, is that something you want to pursue in the future? Is a career in the writing field?
Honestly, at this point, I'm really not sure. But I feel like it would be very cool to have my writing publicized and have like writing as more than just a hobby.
No, the reason I ask is I have a young lady who works here who's helping film this show, and she graduated from the Arts Academy. And the reason she's here is I heard her read a poem one night. And I said, if you could write that poem, you could write for me. So I found that fascinating. Her name is Janae, and she's here, and she graduated the Arts Academy 2 years ago. Do you know her, Ms. Hicks?
I have to claim her. I got to claim her. That was my former student. So I know how fabulous she is. Yeah, I'm claiming her.
Well, she's behind the camera right now, so.
I know. I love every time I see her face, I'm like, definitely stood out. Definitely stood out as a student. So
you never know where writing and poetry can work, because like I said, I can't write. So I look for people who can write. And can you help me out and tell me the difference between poetry and prose?
So a prose is something like a short story. It just follows the way people speak, kind of like how I'm speaking right now. This is just the normal way of speak, but like poem, if it's more structured and it follows kind of like a rhythm for it to sound nice.
That's good. And do you have favorite poets?
Actually, I like Elizabeth Barrett Browning and like Sylvia Plath. They're two of my favorite poets.
Have you read a lot of their poetry?
Yeah, I have. I spend a lot of time like reading their poems because I think it's I think the way they write is really cool and I just like it.
And it is commonly said that after a personal or a national tragedy, people turn to poetry. Do you think this resonates with you as a young lady, a freshman in high school?
I feel like not really because I didn't know that I was writing poetry until Miss Hicks was like telling me to write a poem, and when I was writing it, I was like, oh, so the other stuff I've been writing that I just think sound nice is actually a poem.
No, the reason I asked that because the last stanza of the poem is they march down the streets in hopes of a better tomorrow, in hopes of seeing a law that benefits them, in hopes of seeing people's negative views change, in hopes that one day they won't have to march down the street to see their flag be raised. So, in a way, that question plays into personal, national tragedies, problems on the streets of the country, and you kind of sum it up in that last paragraph. Just
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
right?
Yeah, I was, I think that sometimes we do things without really thinking about it, without really understanding it. And, poetry for me has always lived in music. I think that lyrics are natural poems put to music. So I feel like that question in itself, even if it's not the traditional idea of poetry, people lean on music a lot. And if we just extract the lyrics from that song, it definitely becomes a poem. So I feel like, we do depend on poetry, or we lean on poetry after moments, whether good or bad in our lives, to help kind of put it to, make it beautiful, make that thought, make that event beautiful or meaningful. I think we do it more often than we probably think we do.
So what is Poetry Out Loud, and is the Arts Academy a part of, what is Poetry Out Loud?
Poetry Out Loud is this competition for students, and I'm so excited to even share that one of our students, unfortunately, she needed to move and relocate within New Jersey, but before she did, because she left, I think it was back in December, before we went on Christmas break, she needed to relocate, but before she did, she participated in this competition. She is, let me make sure I get the title correct. She's the New Jersey State Champion of Poetry Out Loud this year. Her name is Italy Whitehead. We have a champion in New Jersey from Thomas Jefferson Arts Academy. And as a matter of fact, I just learned this today. Sunday, May 1st, she's going to be competing virtually in the national semifinals. So we have a representative of New Jersey from Thomas Jefferson Arts Academy who's representing our state, who's going to be competing nationally with others. So we definitely are a part of Poetry Out Loud. And it's been a few years now. Miss Sandra Toll, she facilitates getting our students together to compete. First it starts school-wide, and then it goes on to statewide, and here we are with our semifinals. So kudos to Miss Italy Whitehead for being our state champ. But
Do you think I can write poetry? Do you have to be a poet to write poetry?
did you say, because it's kind of glitchy, but did you say, can we help you write poetry? Is that what I heard, Mr. Mayor?
Exactly.
Listen, I can help you write whatever you need. We can get you to write some poetry. I can promise you that.
So you think I could be writing poetry at home?
At home?
Yeah. Me.
Of course.
You think I can?
I think you can, especially, I mean, you're actually a natural poet because you have years of experience that I'm sure would make for great poetry.
You know, I have
All the
to
things
I have to close the show on that because that was such a kind thing you just said.
I think you can get some great poems out of your experiences with Elizabeth. I'm sure.
Well, I want to thank the two of you for being on the show this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
This is Mayor Chris Bollwage. I want to thank Miss Ericka Hicks and Miss Yoselyn Escamilla, a 9th grade freshman at the Thomas Jefferson Arts Academy, for joining me on Our City. We'll be back next week with another edition of Our City. Stay safe.